Greetings, fellow Homo sapiens. It's the first podcast of 2021. Happy New Year to everybody. Today, I have with me the one and only Nathan Thomas, aka NATE08. Nathan, welcome to the program.
Yo, greetings. What's good?
It's all good. We got lots to talk about. I forgot, normally I say a bunch of stuff in the beginning about who you are, what you are. Nathan is a bass player, one of the best bass players I've ever seen, and that's not an exaggeration. But he's also an amazing producer and just an incredible musician all around. Nathan, you've been doing all kinds of cool stuff. You got a bunch of things that we can talk about. Mm-hmm. You're in a group, drum&bass, with a really good friend of ours, Dhir Mody.
That's right.
You just released you produced a single for Rohan Mazumdar, which I think maybe is the first thing I want to ask you about, because I just heard this. I heard it when it came out not too long ago, and I'm always impressed by what you do, but I'm also always impressed and super surprised. It's just a new type of sound that I've never heard you. In your production, super classic type of sound on that song. Can you tell me how that song came about? Did Rohan come to you with chords? How did that happen?
Thanks, man. I'm glad you digged it. So basically, Rohan has been wanting to do his solo shit for some time. Mm-hmm. And he had this tune. It was super rough. It was just voice and acoustic guitar. Mm-hmm. When he sent it to me, and he was like, I want you to do something. And I was like, yeah, sure, because it's something new for me also to I produced my own shit, and I produced shit with Dhir, but producing something for someone else, like a singer-songwriter kind of vibe was new to me. Mm-hmm. But because I know Rohan so well and we're really tight homies, I was like, yeah, sure. I know his vibe and I know what he's into and what kind of music he's into. So he was like, yeah, I want to do this. He sent me a couple of references, and he just sent me voice and acoustic guitar, and I pretty much did my thing over that. He had a few ideas, in the intro, the whole stomp and shackles thing. He wanted that, and he basically wanted a vintage vibe overall, but with some modern elements, like a modern approach on a vintage vibe kind of song. So
you guys fully killed it on the aesthetic. You nailed it.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, and
thanks.
Even the video, it's always awesome to see a video that fits perfectly with the vibe of the song. There's even a classic element in the video that goes across eras. There's a classic soul vibe in the video, but there's also an almost certain elements of hip hop video production, where even you as the producer are there, you see him chilling with him in the video, and it reminds me of say 99 Problems with Jay-Z, where Rick Rubin is chilling with Jay-Z in the video. When you see a piece front to back where kind of every aspect of the production hits, right? The song is amazing, you guys nailed it on the production, and then you have a visual that just it fits perfectly.
It's perfect.
That's really awesome, and it's really great to hear Spaz come with something. Look forward to hearing what he brings out in the future. He's such a talented guy. So that's a song that you just produced recently, just came out, but you're a producer and you've been doing you've been progressively, your beat making game has just been going up and up and up, and now it's just through the roof, kind of
Thanks,
and
dude.
I think at the beginning of the lockdown you were posting on the regular, on Instagram, just going through it, kind of doing the beat a day thing that a lot of us like to do at certain points to practice and to flex the exercise the muscle more so than maybe flex it. So what's the name of that box that you bought? It's a famous machine.
It's called the SP404.
404. I knew it was one of those numbers. Is it by Roland?
It is.
It must be, I guess, right?
It's a Roland, yes. Yeah. So it's basically like a sampler, and you can make music on it, but I haven't really used it to its full potential because I just like the workflow on Ableton for me is super quick.
Yeah.
So for me to learn something else, and it's like completely analog, so it's like you gotta manually adjust your chops and things like that. So I was just like, I would just make tunes, make beats on Ableton, and then like dump it into the thing and use it as like a performance tool with like effects and stuff. So yeah, I was mainly like a performance tool more than a beat making tool for me.
So you can like load the clips onto it, and then it doesn't need to be hooked up to a DAW. It's kind of just there for you.
No, nothing.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool to be able to do that. And like, I mean, I've learned so much about Ableton over the last a few years as I've been getting into it. There's so much you can do with it. Anytime I'm hanging out with any producer, and we start talking about DAWs, I will just go on a long rant about Ableton because I'm always discovering new fucking things you can do with it. Like the thing I've been, and it's funny because like you will discover something in Ableton, and for you it's like this new amazing thing, and then you'll tell like maybe one of your friends, and they're like, oh yeah, I've been doing that for ages. The thing I've been fucking with right now recently is the obviously everyone goes through that phase when they're trying to synthesize drums from scratch,
right?
But recently what I've been trying to do is, how in Drum Rack you can just like, instead of putting in samples, you can just put a whole synth in the drum pads. So I'm trying to make like a whole kit using only instances of operator in the drum pad, and then like mapping out the, like going in depth with the macros. So that you have this like full morphing drum kit situation.
Right.
And that's cool. I was hanging out with Jebs last night, and I was showing that to him, and I got really excited. And I emailed him like my 3 operator kits, like really excited, just because. But for some people, that stuff, they're just like, this is the first thing that they learn how to do, I guess. But yeah, the workflow in Ableton is amazing. But the performance thing, like being able to dump it onto whether you're using a laptop or not. Like that's something that I haven't really practiced at all, really, to be honest. And it's, I mean, you have so much experience playing live, so to be able to now incorporate that into your whole repertoire of things you can do live is a big deal. You also just released an album with Dhir. You have a band. The name of the band is drum&bass. For the non-Indian listeners, do you want to explain the name of the band in reference to the genre?
So it's nothing very deep or introspective that way. It's just Ani. Ani just is. It just means and in Marathi. And so it's just pretty much drum and bass.
Self-explanatory.
We didn't obviously didn't put a lot of thought into that.
Well, it's I think for non-Indian listeners, the distinction that it's in Marathi rather than like, say, maybe somebody might assume that that's Hindi if they're not from here. So that just for that clarification is cool. Marathi being like the regional language of the state that we're in. That's a cool touch, and I love the album title as well, which is 1403. And it like that just, it makes too much sense, and it hits me, it hits home. Like the moment I saw because everybody knows what, anybody that knows you guys knows what 1403 means. I guess I should let you explain it though.
So basically 1403 was the flat number that Dhir was staying in, and it was the spot that we pretty much played all our music and wrote all the music, and like we didn't record over there, but like we recorded our scratch ideas and demos and stuff, and we would pretty much just hang out over there all the time. Even if we're not playing music, we were like listening to heaps of music. We were just chilling like pretty much all the time at that spot. And we just had to name the album that because like nothing else made sense.
Yeah, it's such an epic. It is a hub, and it like especially like this album is so much like you and Dhir's personality. Like the two of you guys are very in-demand session musicians. You on bass, Dhir on drums, and like you guys are involved in a lot of projects, and you guys are both really good at adapting to the whatever the situation is, and we'll talk about that later. But this album and this project, the reason why it's very special is because it's extremely pure manifestation of who you are and who Dhir is, and also your guys' friendship.
Yep.
And that's really special because, you know, like I said, you've worked in a variety of different projects, as have many of us. And it's really awesome. Like, okay, there's like a singer-songwriter, they need a bass player for their live band, or you need to go into like some song and do a session. And you're a total pro, and you can do it, and you can nail whatever style of music that is. But like, and same with Dhir. But the cool thing is, this project is very much just who you guys are. Like, if you load up Dhir's Instagram, he's just jamming on this vibe all the time. It's like he's dedicated, you know. His mission in life is to get this style down, or at least for these 100%. Years that I've known him. And same with 100%. You. And I remember the times that I would visit apartment number 1403, flat number 1403 for the global people. I mean, and the cool thing is, like, the reason I love that, two reasons, right? I love the album title is because, first of all, I crashed there in 2016 when I was like couch surfing. Like, I stayed in that place for like a week. And Dhir was really hospitable to me. It's such a good memories. And also, I mean, the first album I ever produced is called Live from the 32nd Floor. And it's because, you know, me and my roommate Andrew, like, we wrote that album together over the course of, you know, 2.5 years, and like, him and I are the only people involved in making it, and so we gave it that name. And it was it was someone that was staying with us, because my apartment number was 3204, and someone was staying with me, a guest, and from London or something, and she was observing you know, my life just recording at home, and that she was hearing the album as she was staying with me, and she was like, oh, you know, you guys should just call the album 3204. and we were like, oh yeah. And then we, you know, Andrew decided to change it to Live from the 32nd Floor, and it worked out. But so it's like that, I recognize that vibe and that sentiment, the sentimentality, and it just, that's more evidence of how much of a more of a personal project it is. And so that really comes through. Like, it's the pure energy of it. And so on that note, I'm rambling, but I mean, I haven't talked to you in a long time. No, it's all good. I haven't. So it's been ages. But you and Dhir, like, you guys have this chemistry that is really special. Like, since the time I've been here, since back in the iBar days, like, you guys have been like kind of inseparable, and always, like, even when you guys, like, there are lots of situations where you guys are playing together in some other situation. You have built up this chemistry over these years, and, you know, those of us that know you've watched this develop. And you know, where was I going with that thought? You've watched it develop. It's over all these years, and so there are I would say there are very few other people in our community that we know who have as solid chemistry as the two of you. Like, I can't think, like, I don't know everybody, and I guess nobody knows everybody, but I can't think of any two other guys where the chemistry is that tight. So can you tell me a little bit of something about how this, like, started? Like, first you're just friends, you're jamming together, and I mean, I remember the first few things you showed me every now and then, like little jams I would see, maybe an Instagram post, and like, now here we are, this like album sounds epic, you know, everything's on point. Can you tell me a little bit about that journey?
So I met Dhir when he was in True School, and he was studying drums over there, and Dhir, Azu and Shankar had this band in school called Rutherford. This was like in 2014 or 2015, I can't remember, but like around that time. And they needed a bass player because they had a gig. And I'd known Dhir before that. Like, we'd played on a gig around that time. He was playing percussion though. He wasn't on drums, but he was... so they needed a bass player, and Dhir knew me. So Dhir was like, yo, we have this band. Would you like to play some bass? We have some tunes. And I was like, yeah, sure. Like, cool. So, and that band was really special. like, because the music, I don't know if many people have heard the music, because obviously it's not out, but it was really fresh at that. I mean, it still is fresh. Like, every time I listen to like the phone recordings from those rehearsal sessions, I'm just like blown away. So yeah, I really fucked with the music, and I was like really into the music. So yeah, it started then, basically, like playing with Dhir on drums, and then I think he moved into 1403 like a year or two later, and then we would just meet and hang, and like I would take all my gear there, like my bass and my pedals, and we would just fuck around, like aimless shit, you know, like just play, like just play music. And I didn't have that with anyone else before, like that aimless just play music scene. Like, I would always be rehearsing for a gig or rehearsing for a session or something like that with like a goal in mind. But like with Dhir, it was just like we just get into the room and just play. So yeah, I think just doing that for a long time, like I would say a good 2 years or so of just like playing random shit, like listening to like lots of music and just playing, that kind of develops into something like, you know, where he's gonna go in the next 4 bars, you know, and like he knows like what I'm gonna do in the next 4 bars, and yeah, and then we started playing at Aiba with Karan, and that was really special also. Like the three of us had something really
that was
special.
Also really magical energy.
Yeah, it
like,
was
watching that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I mean, I'll let you say more about that, but
yeah, that was exactly like you said. It was proper magic. Like I'd never experienced that kind of like energy playing music before. Like, you know, it was something more than like music, and something that I would never be able to explain, unfortunately. But yeah, so that also added to like the chemistry and like how we'd play and the things we'd listen to, and like yeah, and then after that, I think after we would play a lot, like the three of us, Karan, Dhir, and me, and I think after he passed, we would still play a lot, but we had like these actually no we would just play. And I think in about 2018 we had this gig at Levi's Lounge, and it was our first gig as drum&bass, and we didn't have any music like ready, like
amazing,
like we just have, you know, ideas on my phone and like things like that, but we didn't have any solid music like with arrangement and like nothing. Like it was just drums and bass, literally. So we kind of had to make some music for that gig, and like make an Ableton set for that gig in particular, and we wrote most of what the album was from that gig. So basically that gig happened and it was like sick, like, you know, we were like, yo, this is pretty sick, we should do this. And we took the songs from that gig, and then we kind of started working on it, and that's how the album happened, because we didn't have any motive like, yo, let's make an album, let's write some songs. It was like super unconventional, because it was completely working backwards.
Yeah.
So like, okay, we have this gig, okay, we need songs for this gig, so we wrote some songs for that gig, and then we were like, oh, we can use these songs to now make an album. This is amazing.
Unconventional is it. I mean,
yeah,
it's so amazing to make a record that way, especially when and there's nothing wrong. I mean, I love making records in a like more serious, formal way when someone's hired you to do it. That's obviously
that's a different
it's a different scene, but I love that as well. But just the ability to just show up, and I love what you're saying about you guys had a gig before you had any songs. Like you had the gig, and you so. Like in terms of creating the song, like the ideas, you say you have ideas. Like, were they just like phone recordings, or like how do you remember them?
They were just phone recordings of drums and bass. That's
okay. So, so here's another interesting thing that it can now in the age of electronic music and Ableton Live and performing electronic music live, there's just it's like the whole thing is opened up. Like there's so many ways to do it. Like if you go on YouTube. And you see like somebody perform a particular electronic musician perform their set, and then you see a different one. It's just totally different. Like they have different controllers. The way that they've organized it is totally different. Even within a similar genre, you can find this. And so I'm curious, as a bass player, you're there with Ableton and you have your bass. How are you organizing things? I mean, you don't have to share this if you want. I mean, if it's a secret,
no.
hang on a second.
No.
I got a call. Decline. So, yeah, if you... so you're there, you got your bass, you got Ableton Live. Yeah. Let's not talk about Dhir because I want to have him on the podcast separately and then I'll ask him all about drums. How do you organize this now? What's the basic plot?
Okay, so when we were making music for the gig, for that set, we would have Ableton projects of each song. This is not the live set. This is just writing the music. So we would have Ableton project we would have an Ableton project for each song, and then I would bounce out that Ableton project as like drum layers and rest of track.
Okay.
So rest of track is basically everything on the track that's not drums and bass.
Right.
So like it can be synths, it can be samples, it can be effects, vocals. If there are vocal layers, like we like to use like speeches and shit.
Yeah.
So vocals will be on another layer, and then we'd have our click and a cue track.
Okay.
That's pretty much it. So we would bounce out things. Like those elements from each project, and then import it into Ableton on arrangement view,
right? And
like automate the tempo throughout the set. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Very cool. Yeah.
There's not really any secrets that I'm not telling you or anything. There's literally nothing.
There's so many different ways you can do a thing.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like, and so it's interesting to hear, like, I remember watching a few YouTube tutorials. One guy, I forget the name of the YouTuber, but the title of the video was like, what I learned from a year of playing sets without a laptop. And, like, again, it's just like every kind of person, whether you're using a laptop or not, like even within Ableton, there are just different ways to organize the clips and how involved you want to be in triggering things and turning knobs, or whether you just want to like hit something and maybe just leave it. Like there's lots of options. And so it's kind of interesting to see how people navigate that. There are some crazy bass tones, obviously, and it's so I'm trying to figure out when I'm listening to this record, when is it you playing bass, and when is it a synth, and when is it a mix, and like, can you tell me a little bit about the bass production and some of the different types of low end sounds you're fucking with?
Right. So throughout the album, I don't think there's even one section on a song where I'm playing like your conventional electric bass. It's all, so I have this octave pedal, and it's by this company called 3-Leaf Audio, and it's this bass player Tim Lefebvre. It's his signature pedal, and like Tim has been a huge inspiration for this kind of vibe. Like, and this, so Mark Juliana and Tim Lefebvre, they play this, they have this duo called Beat Music. Not duo, I mean, I think there's a couple more people, but like they have this thing called Beat Music, where they're just playing like electronic music, jungle, drum and bass, that kind of shit. So that kind of inspired both of us a lot. And sound wise also, I was like, okay, this is sick, you know, for this kind of vibe. So my main bass tone throughout is me going through that octave pedal, and it basically has your standard octaver with like a mix knob, and then it has this sub switch which is just subs. So
Wow.
like it's basically the octave level on full mix, one octave below throughout.
Wow.
So that's mainly my my main bass sound throughout. And then I'm going through like a bunch of effects on I have this thing by Line 6 called the Helix HX Stomp. And there's like a bunch of amps, cabs, modulation effects. It's like a everything in one thing. So yeah, I'm running through a bunch of modulation stuff. I have like an LFO kind of thing for like the movements, for like the wobbles and shit.
Wobble.
Yeah, like then I have like in some sections I'm using like a chorus to spread it out wide. Yeah, that's pretty much it in terms of bass
Chorus
sound.
and LFO are your mainstays?
Chorus and LFO. Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I'm missing out on. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Mainly the sub and the LFO for like the wobbles and like chorus to spread things out.
It's such a cool tone. Is it being compressed in the box like after you're recording it, or are you doing
so I have a compressor before like I have an input and an output compressor. So I have a compressor going into my Helix. That's another analog pedal. It's called the OVNI Labs Smoothie compressor. It's like this boutique compressor that this guy makes 10 pieces a year.
Oh wow.
So I got lucky.
Is that more like is it like a pedal or is it a unit?
It's a pedal.
Okay, so it's geared more towards is it specifically for bass?
He's made it for bass, but you can also use it on guitars and like other things because it's a really,
so that's going into your Helix?
That's going into my Helix. Yeah, so that's an optical compressor and it has like your dry wet mix knob. So yeah, that's going into my Helix, and then on my Helix it's like an amp, some modulation, whatever modulation I need for that song. Maybe some drive if I need to. Sometimes I'll have a drive pedal before the Helix. So I have this thing called the Poke Loin by Electro Harmonics, I think. No, by Way Huge. The Poke Loin. And it's just like a very, very subtle boost before I go into my octave pedal to just get some top end harmonic into the octavo. If I need to for that particular song. So yeah, in the Helix it's mainly like amp, cab, some modulation, and another compressor, which is just leveling everything out, because like with all of these effects, shit can go crazy sometimes with like levels. So it's mainly like a just to tame everything to like one thing. And then I have an EQ at the end of that, which is doing a basic low shelf, high shelf.
Oh, sweet.
Not shelf, but like a low cut, high cut at like very, very minimal at like maybe 20 hertz and like 17K or some shit like that. So it's
this all sounds like it makes sense. I remember there was it's amazing to hear people sort of interpret electronic, like sounds from electronic music using live instruments. And there's a lot of it now in 2021. I remember, close to 20 years ago, I can't even remember the name of the band, but there was a band in Canada. I think it was the Jimmy Swift Band, I think is the name of the band. And they used to do sort of like house dance music.
Right.
And they were like a 3-piece, guitar player, drummer, and bassist.
Right.
And I remember going to one of their live shows and just looking at the bass player's pedals.
Yeah.
And he had a pedal board. It wasn't even that many pedals, but what was amazing was like how many of them were EQ pedals.
Yeah.
And obviously the octave thing, that's the octave pedal thing is really interesting because it's not something I ever thought of until someone pointed it out to me. It's like, if you want this kind of D&B kind of sound, octave pedal. I'm like, huh. And then you try it and you're like, oh, like shit, this actually, even the octave up, right? Like, even that gives you a certain kind of a tone. And it's like a compressor pedal and EQ pedal. These are pedals that you almost like wouldn't think of first, as a guitarist, bass player, whatever, just to get like a pedal.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you add those two things, and it's such a big difference.
No, it makes a world. I mean, it does things very subtly, but it makes a world of a difference when you take it out. Like when you take it out, you know, like, okay, that's why it's in there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. No, it's
But, yeah.
super important. So,
Yeah, for sure.
what on the record, besides like this kind of processing that you can just do live, and you have a sort of a knowledge over it and a control over it, is there anything after the recording process that, like, did you just leave it to like whoever mixed it, or did you have a hand in maybe designing some stuff after the fact in the project, or are you affecting your bass tones in the mix in any weird ways?
So it was I would say it's a mix of all the things that you just mentioned. In a few songs, we just left it how it was.
Yeah.
In one song, in the second tune on the album, I think, there's a funny story. In one section of the song, I just forgot to record bass at the studio. like I pulled in the stems into my project, and I was like, this section doesn't have any bass. Because I remember at the studio we were like, yeah, we'll do that later, you know. Like,
which studio did you guys record it in?
We were at Island City Studios.
Nice,
so
of course.
We recorded drums on one day and bass on one day. So we were done recording in 2 days. Well, I think drums took 2 days. Drums took 2 days, and bass we knocked off in 1 day. And so while recording my bass on this song in particular, we were like, fuck this section for now, we'll come back to it later. And like we just ended up doing everything else. And like obviously at the end of the day, it's like, you know, 10-12 hours of recording, and you wouldn't remember that one section that you forgot. It obviously wouldn't remember.
Yeah.
So we're like, cool, we're done for the day. I got the stems, I imported them into my session, and I was like, fuck. we are one section short. Oh, good?
Yeah, my phone just fell off the thing that it is resting on. I got a super sketchy setup here. I've got to like invest in better things. I got like a message, and then
it vibrated.
And then the vibration. And hang on, your level just dropped on my end, so I'm just gonna I can still hear you, but I'm gonna try and turn you up.
Okay. Yo. Check.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
That's a fun situation. So you have this whole thing missing, and so how did you rectify it?
Yeah, so then we were like, okay, cool. So now, even if I try to play something on it, it's not going to be the same because the setup is different. The mics are different. I mean, we didn't even have mics to record at home because it was this extremely intricate setup at Island City where we had like 5 mics on the bass cab.
Wow.
And like we had a DI, and like it was a bunch of different things. So yeah, we were like, okay, that's not an option. So we just kind of found some one shots.
Yep.
And made that section with like this sub. So that was the only section on the album that we used samples out of need.
Yeah.
And there wasn't anything like because we had so many mics, I would choose what mics we need and what sections, etc. And we wouldn't use all mics on the whole song at all times. So it was just that in post for me before the mixing stage. I would just mainly just get everything compressed again. I love compression. Like
for bass, it's it's so important. Dude, it's like, and there's all the different stages that you can do it. It's bass players need to get friendly with compression.
Oh, I love it. And especially exactly like the stages. Like I won't go more than like 5 dB of compression per stage. You know, so I'm not like squashing it all at once, but like I like to go in phases of compression. So again, one more phase of compression right before we sent it out for mixing. That was pretty much it. That was pretty much it in terms of bass recording and like post.
Did you so there's a bunch of things I want to ask you about this actual recording at ICS. Firstly, in terms of the bass cab, like, did you give any thought to like what kind of cab you were using, or did you just like whatever you guys have, or do you actually have a piece of gear that you were using? Is there like is it consequential to you what cab you were using, what amp you were using, etc.?
No, so I don't have any gear like in terms of amps and cabs at home, and I knew. Like I played through the gear at Island City before, and I knew like that cab, like they have this 1x15 Galleon Kruger cab, and I knew like, okay, that's a nice sound, and also like a 15-inch cone for like subs is a nice combo. So
Galleon Kruger is quite cool.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah, this is gonna work. So I didn't give that much thought into it because I knew what was there already.
Was it amp sim into the cab, or was there an amp as well?
Good question. I know it was not amp sim into the cab. I think there was an amp sim on my Helix, so that was two separate channels. Then there was a dry going into an amp and a cab.
Okay.
At Island City, so like a dry out from my Helix without any amp and cab, but I was sending all the effects as well to the amp and cab,
but minus the amp sim.
Minus the amp sim.
Oh, very good, very good. Yeah. And so, in terms of the miking now, like again, you have the joy of recording at ICS, which is both a lovely space and also a very homely space where it feels like everybody is sunshiny and happy, and it's nice to just step out into the balcony and see. It's like the new iBar in a certain kind of way, right? Like you just go there, like, and I'm gonna run into like X
you're gonna meet someone, you know. There.
So it's a joyful place to record. The A room is lovely, and also we're lucky because it's like, hey, this is just drums and bass. Like, you know, we can make use of the sound of this room and make it sound like it all lives together, right?
For sure.
If you want, you don't have to do that. I'm a little obsessed with this. I like I want to one day produce an album where I record all the instruments in the same room and like mic the room really nicely each time, and maybe see if we can just rely on the room reverb to create the whole ambience. So anyway, I'm rambling, but that's a dream. But anyway, so you got this bass cab. You're saying they had an intricate setup with the mics. How many mics are we talking on the bass cab here?
I think there were 5 mics on the bass cab.
That is
all
a lot.
Placed scientifically at different areas, and I didn't even get into I was just like, do your thing, guys, like you know, I was like, I trust you all, I'll be back in 10 minutes.
Well, absolutely. I mean, you can't trust me to do that stuff either. I mean, because I'm such a in the box guy, and usually you know, like if you're gonna rock up to Island City, you should let them handle where the mics go. I think 100%. They know that room, and they know those mics and all that stuff. But
100%.
In the back end, I mean, presumably when you're editing and mixing it, you have a role in selecting which mics you want to use for which sections. So did you, like, in terms of how the mics were labeled for you when you're selecting, did you get a sense of, this type of room mic is cool for here? Like, can you describe maybe the difference that you got in the different stems, tracks? So, you know, anyway, I'll let you go ahead.
Yeah. So one of the mics was a sub kick on the cab. So that was like, okay, I knew that was my main subtone. Then there were a bunch of mics. I'm sorry, but I can't remember what mics. I'm not that well versed with my microphone.
Just more about the sound, knowledge. Right?
Yeah. So like one mic would be a really nice top end that I could use on some sections. One mic would be a basic all round, like, you know, you just slap that mic on and it sounds good. One mic would have a really nice mid range, like that 500, 700 range for bass. And things like that. So I could use like just the top end from one mic, just the sub from one mic, just the mid range from one mic. So I had that flexibility of what I want to use with the miking situations because I had that option. But it's also a tough one, I'll be honest, because all of them sound so nice, and you're like, this is a hard choice. for me to select what mic to use where, but like in the end I was like, okay, I'm not gonna think this through too much. I'm just gonna commit to this like right now. So we ended up using a few mics in some sections, a few mics in different sections, a few mics for a certain song that needed, like, so things like that. And even my synth bass was going through the amp and cab at Island City, so I had option for like my synth bass as well.
Can you tell me about your synth bass situation?
So I forgot to mention that in my bass sound. But I have this synth bass. It's an what's it called? It's a white synth bass. I can't believe I don't know what it's called. Hang on, I'm just gonna Google this. I think dude, I'm damn sorry.
I'm curious. When you say synth based, are you referring to a pedal? Are you referring to a different type of rig? What are you talking about?
No, it's like a synth bass with like keys on it.
Oh, keys. So it's a synth.
Yeah. So it's a synth. It's a synth, and I use it for bass. It's like a monophonic synth. I can't believe I can't. Hang on, I'm just gonna look at what name.
Do it. If you're home, you might as well check it out. We got time.
So it's an Arturia Microbrute.
Oh, cool.
So it's just a 25 key monophonic synth. But it has some really, really nice sub on it. So I use it for my synth bass parts on whatever song. Like there are some songs where I'm playing synth bass throughout. Like King of Good Times, I'm just playing synth bass sub throughout. There's some sections in some songs that I'm playing synth bass. So that was also going through the amp and cab at Island City.
Cool.
So I had again 5-6 options of what synth bass sound I want to use, which was interesting because again I had like, I could use the top end from here, I could use the sub from here. So that way it was cool.
That sounds like a lot of fun. You guys had a lot of collaborators on the album. You want to give us a quick rundown of some of the notable friends that joined you on the record?
So I hope I don't forget any names, but so Azu, Malika and Vasundhara sang on one song, which is called Mind of No Mind. Roncha was playing keys on one song. Young Raj also helped in some production of Mind of No Mind. He's a good friend of ours, and whenever he would come to Bombay, he's from Hyderabad, so whenever he would come to Bombay, he would stay at 1403. So like we would just end up making some music, either like NATE08 and Young Raj, or like Young Raj and Ramani bass, so
cool.
It was fun. So Young Raj helped in some production on Mind of No Mind. Like that outro on that song is fully his. Then Roncha played keys on one song. Sid Shirodkar helped in production on a few tunes. On a few tunes, Warren Mendonça, Blackstar Blues, played guitar on one tune. I hope I'm not missing out anyone.
That's already like a star-studded cast of people.
We were basically like, okay, both Dhir and I are not so... and Karan. We had one song with Karan, which is just like an interlude, but we recorded it in... so Azu had a farmhouse in like some time back, and we were there for like for a weekend or something. Karan, Azu, Dhir and me. And we would play in his attic. There was like... It's like this old house, and he had an attic. And he'd set up his drums. I had my bass. Karan had his keys. And we set up over there, and we just recorded some shit. And it was just one mic on the drums, one input for bass and one input for keys. And it came out really well. Again, that whole chemistry thing, and like we knew when we were going to go into this section, we knew when to drop out, things like that, which we just wouldn't speak about. So that was a really nice snippet from one of the jams that we used as an interlude. And yeah, that's pretty much it for collaborators. Yeah, so I was saying, Dhir and I are not so well versed with melodic and harmonic knowledge. So which is something that we're both working on. So we were like, man, we have friends that are so much better at this. So we just asked them to play some shit on it. And we knew, like, you know, they would be more than happy to. And yeah, so that's mainly how the collaborations came about. We were like, fuck, we need some melodic shit over here. Let's just call Sid. Okay, like, oh fuck, some guitar would be nice over here. Okay, let's call Warren.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much how the collaborations came. But it wasn't like, it wasn't anything like of a big deal. Like,
Elaborate, or it wasn't super elaborate or planned out. It was just people hanging out. Whoever happens to be at 1403 that day.
Exactly.
Amazing. I mean, this is the kind of record that I love. It's the kind of story behind a record I love, and you like, you know, records like that just have a sound, right?
Yeah,
and a coherence, like just a fundamental, like they just sound like a moment in time, and it captures people's personalities. And I mean, I've said that a bunch of times already, but it's amazing. So the name of the record, 1403, drum&bass. I recommend everybody look this up. While you guys have been doing this, concurrently, you have just been getting more into electronic production and hip hop production, and you have a lot of solo material as NATE08, as we mentioned earlier. Can you tell me the beginnings of like how that started and how, you know, you kind of come to the point where you're at now?
Yeah. So again, nothing too thought about or too planned out. I was just like playing around with Ableton, and I got into sampling, and I was like, okay, this is fun, and like I would make some beats which were absolute trash, but I guess we all start somewhere.
I still have the trash beats, like, you know, for me, it's what I've realized is I just try to make a lot of them, and then you know, out of like 10, maybe 2 will be kind of all right.
Dude,
and
that's my process. Like my folder, like my beat making folder is just numbers. So like right now it's at like, I don't know, some 300-400, but it's just numbers. Like when I started, I made a beat and I just saved it as 001.
Yeah.
Because I'm terrible at naming things. And
Nathan, you're talking to me directly. You're talking to my soul directly here, because this is literally, I mean, I'm sure there's lots of people that are in this boat, but like this reminds me of specifically what I was doing from, I think, age 20 or 21 till about 25. I had my beat making, it didn't start out on this piece of gear, but shortly after I, like, you know, this is 2001, right? The type of softwares that were available for free in 2001 on a Windows PC, Pentium 3, whatever. After that, like a couple of years of that, I got this, you know, my parents helped me get a Korg Triton Studio, which is a hilarious music workstation in this day and age. The sounds on it are really dated, and it sounds very prominent in the productions of like the Neptunes,
right?
And it has a very digital sound, and I, you know, relied on this for years and years and years, and I relied on it too much to the point where, after a while, when like better VSTs and software and stuff started to become invented and available and stuff, I just didn't even pay attention, and I continued using this music workstation. And then slowly I would start to hear beats where like just the sounds on the beats sounded better, like the drums just sounded better, and I was like, why don't my beats have drums that sound so good? And I never knew why, and then I finally understood that I was using this piece of really like dated equipment. But what's funny about that, and this is a tangent, but what's funny about that is that piece of gear came out in the late 90s, 2000s. And I went through the whole phase of it being cutting edge, and then it like going out of fashion
Yeah.
to the point where you can hear that like if you're using this gear, your beats sound old, like fucking catch
Yeah.
up. I went through that process, and now this year, like 2020, like within the last 6 months, for the first time, I'm starting to see in my YouTube feed videos about this keyboard. And like the vintage sounds of the Korg Triton, and you're just what are you saying? Like it's funny to compare
That's mad,
something.
dude.
Yeah, it's funny to compare something like the Korg Triton to these like vintage synthesizers like the Jupiter or the Juno, the Prophet, and then it's like the Korg Triton. It just sounds hilarious, and to me, I still think it sounds really dated, and like I don't want to use those sounds. I used them for so many years, but. All of that is a roundabout way of me saying that I used to make my beats on that Korg Triton Studio. It had a touch screen. And I was labeling all of my beats loop 1, loop 2, loop 3. And I kept doing this up until I got to about, over the years, I think I got to like 200 something. And it started to become a problem when I was living in Newfoundland at this time. It started to become a problem when I moved to Toronto and actually started meeting like MCs and vocalists that wanted to record, and it was just all numbers. There's no way to remember what beat was what, and you have no idea. And so I guess a lot of people go through it, but when you said that to me just now, it just reminded me of this thing from like a long time ago. But then, so now I'm in no better situation with naming my beats now. Instead of naming them as numbers, I just give them like gibberish names, like whatever is going on. Like sometime, like I'll be listening to a podcast while like I'm making beats or something, and it's like maybe it's Russell Brand is the guest, so then the name of the beat is like Bustle Rand or whatever, like that type of stupidness, and that makes it a little bit easier to remember what the thing is, but it's still kind of like
For sure. No, I have problems like remembering shit. But yeah, I just started with that, so I was like, fuck it, I might as well just continue that process. But like I kind of tag beats, like, color mark them.
Oh, that's a good see, I didn't have this. I didn't have the technology, but I also didn't have the sense.
Yeah, so like I'd make, let's say, 10 beats that week, and like at the end of the week, maybe like on a Sunday, I'll go through all of them, and maybe like beat 4 and beat 7 are nice. So I'll just tag beat 4 and 7 and then never open the other beats ever again. So I guess that's the downside, because I'd probably like the other beats at some point. But anyway, so yeah, that was my process of just tagging beats. And then by the time I got to like 20, 30, I had like 4 or 5 beats that were like decent at that point. Like I wouldn't say I would make something like that now, but that's cool, because
that's always the way.
Yeah.
Just,
So yeah, I initially didn't plan on like doing anything or like putting any of those things out. I just wanted to like give it to a few friends, like, mixtape style, beat tape style, not mixtape style. Yeah. And some friends of mine were like, yo, this is cool, you should like, put this out. I was like, oh, and then I started thinking about it, and I was like, yeah, just put it out, fuck it. So yeah, I put out 5 beats in like October or November 2018, I think. Yeah. And yeah, that was my first like EP/beat tape, whatever you'd like to call it. And since then I've just been making things and like put out a couple of singles after that. But like right now I'm in a completely different like musical space from that hip hop sampling vibe. I just wanted to like stop sampling that much, because like in the end, when you give it to like labels and shit, they're gonna be like, yo, we are not gonna clear these samples legally.
You're speaking to me again. You're speaking directly to me from like 10, 15 years ago. Because it's hilarious. For the longest time, when I was 18, 19, I discovered some basic music software, and I was like, oh, sampling. And let me try this. And I did like a very little bit of it. I did like basic sampling, cutting, very rudimentary, maybe only one technique, and did it to know that it's possible. And then immediately after that, because I took, music seriously and being successful and trying to like, sell it at some point. I thought that was a thing when I was 18. So I was like, well, I can't sample so much because, like you got to clear the licenses and whatever
exactly,
it is. So I just like stopped sampling for years. And like, then eventually I came around to like, I would sample myself. Like I would play something on guitar, piano, and then sample that. And it wasn't until I moved to India, like in 2015, because when I moved here, I thought I was just going to stop doing music. Like I had no idea what I was going to be doing. And so I was like, okay, like nobody buys music. So like, I mean, if somebody wants to like holler at me to like get money off of a set, like something, it's like, all right, like what's 10% of zero? Like go home. You know what I mean? Like, so because like I stopped giving a fuck after I moved here, which is funny because I've managed to continue doing projects, but it's only now that I've been going into sampling and just exploring all the different ways that you can sample and do stuff. And so I've been on that tip for like pretty much the whole time you've known me, just learning more about it. But it's interesting.
I heard some of your shit that you sampled and you put up on your SoundCloud, something like maybe a year back or so. I was pretty cool, very very interesting.
Oh, thank you. Well, I've been, putting out these like little, I put out a beat tape, just kind of the same kind of thing where I was just doing it for practice. And then after I got to like a few where I was sampling from like a similar source material, I was like, oh, like if I just make like 20 like small beats and then I blend them together, that's like a fun thing that is just a fun thing to have. Like, why not? That's the motivation. So that's why I mean, a lot of what you're telling me about your process speaks to me. Cool. And I it's amazing because like I wish I had that attitude when I was younger, right? Like the idea and listening to artists like say Flying Lotus and even like say an epic classic album like Jay Dilla's Donuts, right? Where you have like an album that's like 30 tracks or something and it's like small beats that are woven together. And every hip hop producer goes through that phase where like you're making loops and you don't know how to break out of the loop or whatever and especially at that time, at the age that I was at in that time, I was convinced that if the song wasn't, 3 minutes or something with like vocals or something here and there, then it's not something that really I should bother mixing and putting out. And it was only slowly, like later on, and then certainly after coming here, where I was like, no, like you can actually just take like small ideas and weave them together into a larger narrative. And I wish I had that attitude when I was younger. Like, I mean, I had a lot of, I'm sure I would have put out a bunch of garbage beat tapes, but it's still nice to actually complete something like that. And then it's just like, it's like there. And then you feel like creatively you can move on. And kind of like you're saying, like you want to stop sampling so much. And part of it is this reason that you mentioned, like, hey, like there's like this licensing thing, but also, I don't know if licensing is the right word. Copyright thing is probably the correct word to use. But there's also this thing like, okay, I've sampled so much. Let me try some other type of technique as well. And even I'm getting there now. Like I'm I told you about my morphing drum kit, but that's this idea that you can put out an unconventional record and actually even your like you can have a song that's a minute and a half, a track that's a minute and a half that leads into something that's very cool. So where has your like sort of beat making been going now? You're moving away from sampling a bit.
So basically when I was sampling, I was just like chopping things and like putting drums and bass over it. I wasn't really challenging myself to push and explore places that I'd not been to before. So I've been also listening to a lot of like house music, but like the UK kind of house, so like Henry Wu, Disclosure,
Disclosure, mind blowing. So good. They've been doing some mad Twitch sessions. Oh, really?
Which is on their YouTube. I'll send you some links.
Very cool. Please do send it over.
Mind blowing. Yeah, you'll love it. So Disclosure, Kate Nada. I've been listening to a lot of that kind of stuff, and it kind of happened once once I stopped putting up so much on Instagram because I was just like exhausted of like of that sound. Like I was just like tired of it, you know.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, how much more can I go like with that? So I started like just listening to new music, exploring new music, and I was like, this kind of shit really resonated with me, and I was like, I really enjoyed this kind of music. So, and also listening to all that shit for like 1-2 months constantly, it's gonna come about in your process. So I just started experimenting at different tempos. It started with that, like, you know, with hip hop, I'd mainly do like 70 to 90 BPM. I wouldn't go more than that. But one day I was just like, fuck it, I'm putting my tempo to like 120 or like 115.
Yeah.
And it's such a simple thing, but like it just changed my whole approach towards making music at like when I started at a different tempo.
Yeah.
And I started having so much fun making shit at like, you know, with like some 4 on the floor, with like some funky bass, things like that. So I've been working on that kind of vibe and like 115 to 120 BPM. And over the last 6-8 months, I've written a bunch of tunes that I want to put out soon, which has no samples on them. It's just me.
Nice.
So yeah, that's kind of where I've been going with my sound. And even like I've been doing DJ sets, and I mainly DJ that kind of shit. So it's also like, okay, this kind of all makes sense now, you know.
That's another thing I wanted to ask you about is your DJing, because you've been doing that as well. And the thing that people don't appreciate about like a good DJ is actually like the time it takes to find interesting music that's not just like available and everybody already knows. Exactly. And then sorting through that music and knowing it, like you have to know a lot of music, which means you got to sit and listen to that stuff.
Exactly.
And you got to find
no shortcuts.
Yeah, and you got to find really good stuff, and then you kind of have to organize yourself in a way so that you can, on the fly, if you need to switch up the vibe in a set, you can do that.
Exactly.
So, I mean, first of all, what are some of the places where you kind of discover music, if you want to share? Maybe you don't want to give away your secret, but
no. I mean, I just listen to a lot of sets online. So like on SoundCloud.
Yeah, well, me too. Yeah. Oh, there you go. See, like I listen to lots of sets as well.
Yeah, SoundCloud, YouTube. There's a bunch of DJ sets on YouTube of my favorite DJs. Spotify, like in Song Radio, the thing on Spotify. It's very interesting. Find some songs there. Some friends might just give me some music like, oh, yo, check out this album. This is sick. This is like your vibe. Just there's heaps of back end work basically that goes into a DJ set that no one really thinks about. Everyone that's not a DJ just kind of thinks, oh, this guy's just pressing play, you know, and like, but there's a lot of things that go behind.
Well, the idea of being a tastemaker, being a selector, being someone that puts effort into like, it's different. Even that kind of DJing requires some basic skill, I guess. I mean, there's varying degrees of this, but like, you know, if you're just like a pop DJ that's like playing the top 40, whatever it is, or I don't even know the right terminology because I don't pay attention to that stuff. But even that is challenging. But like being an actual good DJ that brings people interesting new music that they've never heard, with maybe like 1 or 2 things that are familiar, so that catches them and pushes them into a new space. That's pretty challenging. Like you have to dig and you know, like we said, get to know the music. But so, how long have you been DJing, and kind of like how's that been going for you?
I've been DJing for about a couple of years now. I would say but like the last year and a half has been more serious in the sense, like my first few DJ gigs, I was just like, you know, this is just fun, like, you know, this is nothing serious about this. But then I started taking it a little seriously. I was like, okay, cool, I really enjoy doing this.
It's a lot of fun.
It's so much fun.
People don't even realize.
Like sorry.
No, go ahead.
And the thing with like DJing is like, if you're having fun, like while playing, that energy is gonna feed off to the crowd and to the people that are there, and they're like, yo, this guy's really having fun, man. Fuck, like, you know, this shit's cool. So yeah, it's really important to like have fun what you're playing. Like if I was playing something I don't really like to listen to, the room is not gonna like it, you know. Like
Correct.
Like it's like even if the tunes are nice, but I don't like them, and I look like I'm not having a good time, no one's gonna have a good time.
Absolutely correct.
So yeah, and like things like reading the room and like seeing what works when, that shit comes with time, and like, you know, as many gigs you play, and that's, I would say, one of the most important things. Like being a DJ is just like setting a vibe, reading a vibe, and like switching to different vibes if you have to, you know, if something's not working out. And it's those things that people don't see and like don't pay that much attention to. But it's a really integral part of the art.
It's amazing how even musicians that are sometimes maybe have one foot in the electronic world still sometimes underrate the DJ. And it isn't until you hear like a particularly artfully put together set where you're like, oh, like this like DJing and putting together a set can be like a very like artistically I don't know what to say, forward experience, you know, like
100%.
And the DJ set that changed it for me, that really was like, man, maybe I like would like to try this, was the Flying Lotus Essentials mix. This from years ago, I guess. Now everything feels like years ago in 2021. But like I heard that and it was just like, it was not a club type set at all. It's not the type of thing you'd hear at a club. It was just like a masterfully put together set of music, and you know, the clever tricks that you would hear that you can do, especially if you're familiar with like Flying Lotus's music, where he like interweaves like one of his like parts of one of his original compositions, and then like parts of like the original tune that it was sampled from and stuff like that, and you're just like, oh man, this is like, there's so much depth here. So it's
100%.
It's amazing how much people sleep on DJs. And then, you know, even outside of the non-club thing, there are like some club-oriented DJs, many club-oriented DJs that are just like wow, mind-blowing stuff. So one thing, there's still a lot of interesting things to ask you about. You are a session guy. You like are very in demand, and you're one of the best bass players I've seen. That's not any random comment.
Thanks,
you know, that's the truth. I mean, bass at one time when I was younger used to be like one of my main instruments. I mean, I suck at all of them now, but it's something that I used to play a lot at one time. And what I've noticed about your playing, super solid, super tight, and you're a crazy young guy, so it's shocking. You can kind of sit into any style that I've seen you play. When you're playing with guys like Clayton, you know, you're playing with Nikhil D'Souza, you're playing over there, you're playing, you got your own projects, such a wide variety of things. Can you tell me about like what your attitude is when you're going into be like a bass player at a gig like that versus your own stuff? What's the...
So there's this really interesting analogy that Dhir told me so he was at this drum camp in Ireland with Mark Juliana, Ash Sohn, and I can't remember the third guy's name, but basically Ash Sohn is like one of the best sessions drummers like of all time. Like he's played on like so much music, from like Adele to like, you know, he's played like on some hip hop shit, he's played on like some rock shit, he's played on some reggae like so many musicians and so many albums he's played on. And he told them in this class this one thing, that when you walk into a session, you just gotta wear a new hat. You know, so like you gotta, every session has a new hat, and like every vibe has like this new, so like you gotta walk into a session being like, okay, I'm gonna put on this hat today, like, you know, this is this kind of stuff. So yeah, I kind of like go by that philosophy of like, when I'm walking into a session, I kind of have an idea of what I'm getting into. So I would just like put on that hat and like be that person for that day. like musically be that person for that day. Like, you know, I wouldn't want to incorporate my drum and bass setup with someone like a pop singer, like, you know, like it just wouldn't make sense. So, and just being really open to different types of music. Like when you're a sessions guy, you got to be down to play anything, you know, like from Bollywood to like pop to like country, you know, to like rock. And and growing up also, I've kind of just like listened to everything, like bits of everything. So I kind of have an idea of like, okay, this I need to take this bass to today's gig, or I need to maybe take these pedals to today's recording because it wants that vibe. And like just having like a general knowledge of what that sound needs from me is kind of what I try to stay conscious of when I'm going into a session.
I'm glad you said that about the basses and the gear, because I'm wondering, like, between the sort of basses you have and the what you've kind of had the opportunity to try out. Do you have any of your own personal taste or insight into what kind of bass works with what kind of project?
Yeah, so I have 2 P basses, which are like my main basses, and that kind of like works for most things.
The P bass is a workhorse.
Yeah, it kind of. So I have one with a maple neck and one with a rosewood neck. So the one with the maple neck has round wounds on it, so it's like a little brighter, more aggressive. It's a little more versatile, and the one with the rosewood neck has flat wounds on it, so it's a little more warmer. You know, it's a little more rounder, and so those 2 basses. So like, you know, I would not take a flat wound gig to like a pop bass, because it needs that nice bright bass for like a pop gig, but I would not take my bright bass to like an R&B gig, you know, where it needs that low end and that nice. So it depends on what gig I'm playing, what session I'm doing, and like I'm lucky to have collected some nice gear over the years, and I have like the option of choosing what I need for the session. And like and it makes all of a difference, you know, things like strings, things like how old your strings are, or how new your strings are, things like effects, what kind of effects are you using, and all of that takes some time to figure out, like, you know, that's pretty much it. But like, just being aware of like, okay, I can't use one bass for everything. I mean, you can, but like it's not gonna complement that sound if you're using like not the right sound.
It's amazing how much difference a swap in the bass can make. And it's another one of those things. It's another one of those things where like you'll have musicians who like who play other instruments who are well versed in music and so on and so forth, and still maybe underestimate how much the difference can be when you just like go with a flat wound. I mean, a P bass with flat wound is such a tank, and I slept on the P bass for ages. The bass that I learned on, I got it when I was in the 8th grade or 9th grade or something. It was like a P bass clone by PV.
Nice.
And my biggest bass playing influence, my 2 biggest bass playing influences is Flea and Stuart Zender from Jamiroquai.
Nice.
And so
Flea was why I started playing bass.
Yeah, he's the reason why I started playing bass as well.
That's
mad. That's the case for many people. I just the other day, man, I saw a pretty epic thing on social media. I saw Mono Neon and Flea hanging out.
I saw that. Yeah,
and it's like this is like you know, how did this not happen earlier? But it's really funny. Mono Neon is like, you know, he's on the fucking cutting edge of
he's not human.
Yeah, exactly. Is basically what we're trying to say. But what's funny about Mono Neon, but in reference to the Flea thing, is I never thought of it before. But just seeing the 2 of them together, I was like, Makes sense. These guys are just peas in a pod. Like it's not
exactly.
This is like immediate communication like between. They were just happy. So that was really cool. And they're both dressed eccentrically, and you're like, wow, like it's cool to have that. But yeah, I slept on the P bass for ages because obviously if your influences are Flea, especially at that time, if they're Flea and Jamiroquai, and I'm just trying so hard to get that like, funkier sound out of this P bass clone.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until years later when I realized that the purpose of the P bass, and especially when you toss a set of flat wounds on,
it's mad.
It's something special.
Yeah.
So you don't have to name any specific session or genre or anything, but does it sometimes happen where you have to work on a session for a style of music or just a particular piece of music where you're like, I don't know, I'm not necessarily feeling this, but I'm the guy that they've seemed to have hired. Does that happen?
I would say yeah, but not as much, which is a good thing.
Well, absolutely. It's a good thing when it doesn't happen too much. We all end up with some weird gigs from time to time along the way.
Yeah.
How do you kind of get through those gigs when you have had to do them? Like, what's the mindset?
So I would if I was in that situation, like which I have been a few times, I would just kind of ask like the guy whose session it is like, okay, so what do you want from me? Like, what's playing in your head right now? Like, just sing me some shit, Like, just do exactly what he would, what he's hearing in his head.
Yeah.
And even if that's not how I would take it, like if that's how I wouldn't have interpreted it that way. But like if I'm in a session and like I'm not really too sure of how to go about this, I'll just try and make the client happy.
Yep.
I'm like, just be like, okay, he's called me in for this. He's called me in because he fucks with what I do. So I'm just trying to make him happy. Like, give him what he wants and don't put in that much input because there isn't that much that I know of this to like give, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it's the great thing about that is it makes a lot of sense, especially after you hear it. But it's another one of those things where it's like, man, I wish I had. I mean, I ended up gaining more experience much later on, and you're quite lucky. You're like at a young age, you're just killing it already. And this is just stuff I wish I knew when I was younger. Like I know it now, like just from doing like the odd sort of ad jingle or something here or there. It's like, these are situations where you just need to put your ego aside and just like, like, do you have a reference? And they send you a reference and you just do exactly according to the reference.
100%.
It's kind of, it sounds simple enough, but it can be, I've seen creatives, not just in music, but like say choreographers, writers and all that stuff, even older than myself who like, it's clearly like a commercial gig. Yeah. Where it's not like this is not a passion project for you. You're getting paid. They're paying you X amount of money. Yeah. And they get really like artistically invested in it. And it's like, that's fine if they're paying you for that. But it's clear that they're not paying you for that. They've given you this reference. This is the thing. And just finish it as quickly as you can so that you can do something else that you really do enjoy.
Exactly.
So it's worth saying out loud, even though it sounds almost obvious once you say it. Another thing I wanted to ask you about, I always ask any old iBar crew people. That was such a important place. I mean, probably I wouldn't still be in the city if it wasn't for that place. The first year that I was here, first 2 years I was here. You just show up on any given Sunday, like we said, and it's just vibes. Everybody is there. So many people would be there. You were one of the people that would be there and would also be playing pretty often. Like there was like obviously people like me, but even other musicians that we know who are really good would show up every Sunday. But you would definitely be one of the guys, by the bar playing bass. With Clayton here and countless other people, and then we'd spend a lot of time on the other side of the street hanging out under a tree as well, doing various intangible things. So what's interesting about that is like the existence of that place, and it sort of, for me, it has a lot to do sentimentally with me moving to this city and making friends in this place. And like I said, if I hadn't had those couple of years at iBar, getting to know everybody, who knows if I'd still be here, right? Like I always say that the only reason I'm here is because I've met so many amazing people who I love. And so it was this nucleus place, and guaranteed that you guys would be performing there every Sunday and sometimes on other days. And then it closes down. And then all of a sudden, like a year, the year after iBar closes, you all of a sudden realize how little effort we used to have to put into actually having this very large social life thing, right? All of a sudden, if I want to see somebody, I gotta like plan it out. I gotta remember to call someone. Like it's it was sad. Yeah. But what I noticed, and I could be wrong about this, which is part of why I'm asking you about this. Like from my point of view, I all of a sudden started nesting. I'm just at home every weekend now, doing working on whatever. Yeah. And in that time, after that first year, all of a sudden, people, our friends, even me, lots of people start putting out projects. New bands started coming out. New acts started happening. Yeah. And so, like, almost like I feel like after that place shut down, now you have all these musicians that have had all this time working together, hanging out together, and people actually are at home gestating and working on projects, and then all of a sudden you have this almost like it feels like there's like an explosion of stuff that happened just like a year after that. The different albums, artists, gigs, and people started playing more serious gigs, it seems like. You know? Now that's my perception as just some guy who's here, but I mean what is your recollection of that time, and do you feel like that time plays a role in the stories that we've just talked about the formation of drum and bass, the formation of like even the session gigs that you're getting, like what was that, what is that whole narrative like in relation to this social sort of focal point that we had in iBar, and then that place going away, and then people having to go and do other things? Like, do you have a perspective on that?
Yeah, so I guess it wasn't really an intentional thing of like things like music happening, like projects happening. But it was, I'm sure something from iBar had to had a reason for like this happening, because like we would just meet all the time at iBar. Like I was going there, I would be there more than I would be at home. Like and like not planned. I would just like rock up there on like a fucking Wednesday evening, and I knew I'm gonna bump into like 6 people I know at the minimum.
Yeah.
So, sorry, that was non-musically, but like, we kind of had to still meet some people, and like, but because we weren't meeting at a bar, we would like meet to play music, because like, if you're not drinking, what else, might as well like make use of this music. So, yeah, I guess like it definitely wasn't intentional, like, oh, iBar shut, okay, come now, let's play music, 100% wasn't that. But I'm sure like it had something to do with that, and like also of like people meeting new people and like having different permutations of band settings of like, oh, this guy can play for this gig because like I played with him last Sunday at iBar and he's good and this and that. Yeah. And dude, like iBar was a really special time for me also, because like I'd just meet so many people that I never thought I'd meet. Like, like being a musician, I'd never thought I'd have a lawyer friend. like someone like Bob. If I would have not met him anywhere in life if it was not for iBar. Just an example, but like so many more like that. And it was a great time, and like just growing up musically and as a human around people that like with like some serious values and like morals and things like that. For me, as someone like a teenager who was going to iBar, not really teenager, but like getting out of my teen years, it was like, okay, cool, this is shaping me for the world.
That's really self-aware, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting. So we're talking about a place that shut down at the beginning of 2017, right?
Yeah.
And I'm a guy like, you know, I'm in my 30s at this time.
Yeah.
I'm starting like a second, third life after moving, you know, over here from Canada. And it's true enough. You like when I met you, you're just coming out of your teens, and we would talk about like how are you so good at what you're doing? You're so young, like fuck off. And I mean, I never thought about this obviously from your point of view, but that's a really interesting thing. Like you're saying that you actually felt like you had a good influence from the people you were hanging out with, which is like honestly, like I mean, we've been talking for almost an hour and a half about all kinds of things about music production, but this is like an interesting point that's like worth saying. Like you got involved in a nightlife scene centered around a bar, and you feel like you had access to people who are a good influence on you
100%.
With regards to morals. You know, this is what you said. That's amazing. It's like maybe that's a story that needs to be told, right? Like now,
because like if I remember correctly, like when I was at IBA, and like obviously I was good for my age. Like not even for my, I was good. Like I was a good musician. I'd take that with pride. But like there were so many like people older than me, like a Spaz, Lakhan, Pradeep. They would all be like,
I mean those guys are
they would all
awesome,
be like,
solid dudes.
listen, you're good and all, but don't let this fucking get to your head, you know? Like, and they would keep like, you know, putting that in my head, like this is cool and all, but like fucking get your shit together, you know, put your head on your shoulders. Like don't,
God bless them.
Yeah, don't let this like fucking ruin you, because it can, you know? And I would give that attention and be like, I mean, you know, what they're saying, it does make sense, because like, you know, they've obviously seen a lot more of life than I have. And like, I'm at this age where I'm like malleable, and you know, I could shape into something completely different, but like, because these guys are there and like, they're like kind of looking out for me, I'm like, you know, giving that thought to it, and like, you know, I would be like, okay, cool, I'm not gonna take this to my head, don't worry, like, you know, it's cool, I know where I'm at. So yeah, I would say it really like shaped me as an individual, that place, and like the people there, which is why it was really special for me. Apart from like the parties and like apart from all the fun shit, it was like really like life lessons, I would say, have been had there.
Well, I think I've had life lessons there. You know, at whatever point in life you're at. Well, man, we've been talking for almost an hour and a half. Thank you so much for chatting with me. I guess we should wrap it up. Is there anything in terms of social media things you need to? Hang on a sec. Sorry about that. I just got a call. Is there anything in like social media handles for the various projects you're involved in you want to share with before we?
Sure. Yeah, my Instagram is NATE08 music, but like with a 0 instead of the O. And drum&bass is just drum&bass. So you can find us on Facebook, Twitter. Not drum&bass is not Twitter. I'm on Twitter. But like, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram on as NATE08 music and drum&bass.
Cool, man. Well, I hope I see you in person soon.
Yes, dude. We should hang. For sure.
We absolutely need to. We need to have like an Ableton geek out session.
100%. I'm down. Let's do it.
All right.